I'm Alicia Davis.
And I'm Trio Springer. And this podcast is a whole bunch of real life. Yes, life as a woman and a mom can be hard sometimes. We totally get it.
We've learned that discovering our unique talents and remembering our potential gives us the ability to tap into our own power, and it's amazing. Plus, it's always better to journey through life with a sis, right?
Right. Sis, you have more power and potential than you realize.
We see you and we believe in you. You've got this, sis. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. This month, we are continuing our September celebrations. And this week, we're focusing on other people's accomplishments. And when I thought about this subject, the first two people that came to mind were Brenda and Kristi. Now, Trio and I met Brenda and Kristi not too long ago. I've known Brenda for several years. She has a couple of sons that are the same age as mine. And so we've known each other for a while, but Brenda and Kristi started a podcast around the same time that Trio and I did. And when we chatted with them a couple months ago, it was kind of like we had just found two new besties. So they have a podcast called Normal Bias Podcast. And on that, they focus on connecting with people with real, honest conversations and good music. They're extremely optimistic. They're positive. I feel like they're your ultimate cheerleaders. They're somebody that you want on your side. So I'm really excited to introduce this week's podcast. Hope you enjoy. I can't even tell you how excited I am that we're kind of back together again, because when we were on your podcast, Normal Bias Podcast, I felt like we had just got two new besties and we could have chat for a lot longer than we actually did on the podcast. Sure. And it was just great. So I'm glad that we get to be together again. I'm super excited.
Me too.
And I actually was wondering if Brenda and Kristi, if you guys could take a minute and kind of brag on each other a little bit. Oh. I know. This is because bragging on yourself is hard, but I know
bragging on yourself is hard. You know what? I just posted a quote at school and it said, "What if we could be obsessed with all the things we love about ourselves?" Because how easy is it to say, "Okay, I have a muffin top. I have pimples and zits and these gray hairs right here." Like, that's so easy, right? Like, but bragging about ourselves? Like my actual self or about Kristi?
Well, let me clarify.
This is easy.
So, Brenda, I want you to brag on Kristi. And Kristi, I want you to brag on Brenda.
I could do it. Like,
I can totally do that.
Okay, good.
Well, before, I'm going to give you a minute to think about that while I fill in listeners, because Brenda and Kristi grew up together. They've known each other pretty much their whole life. And so not only are they really close as friends in womanhood, like in this adult life, but they also grew up together as girls and as teenagers. And so when they start to talk about those things and you guys, my Southern accent's coming back just as I'm sitting here with y'all.
Yay!
We're doing it. Take that.
Yes. Take that.
Y'all.
Yeah, but just as you guys are, kind of thinking about those things, I think it's important that listeners know that, because whether we've known each other a lifetime or we're just learning about each other and getting to know one another, there's always things that we can celebrate and like find in one another that is just joyous. And so I love that, what did you say, Brenda? What was the quote?
So the quote is, "What if we were obsessed with all the things we love about ourselves?" Yes.
I love the what if, because it's so open-ended and we get to fill it all in. And so what if? And that's where you guys are going to kind of take off is, not only being obsessed about ourselves and learning to be that way, but you guys get to set the foundation for us of what is amazing about each other, so that maybe listeners can start to reflect about that in themselves too. So you guys take it away. Okay.
Do you want me to go first?
I want you to go first.
Okay, so Brenda and I, we met when I was a junior and she was a senior in high school, and she actually married the boy that I had a crush on, like from 8th grade on. So, but I like her anyway.
And
But she married my best friend's brother. So Brenda has been, like, we've been on the periphery of each other's lives for over 30 years. So what was that, 1991?
Wow.
Anyway, so for a long time, we've been on kind of the 90. We would have met in 90, right? 91. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, we've been on the periphery of each other's lives. And Brenda and I reconnected on a personal level, not just on a, like, my family's friends with your family level, on social media, and like back when we all had mommy blogs. And Brenda she was like everything that I wanted to be. She was a stay-at-home mom. They struggled with infertility, but she actually beat us to getting pregnant. They had Alex February, we had Casey in June, so we were pregnant. I remember that last New Year's Eve when we were both pregnant, and then you had him just like a short while later, and I was shocked because when was he due?
So he was born in February. He was due in April.
Yeah,
so he came early.
They were due really close to each other. And then you guys, like, the next thing I knew, you had a bitty baby. So we kind of got to grow up as parents together and online, because I joined social media probably 6 years later. So Brenda and I got to grow up as parents together, and I got to watch her parent on her blog, on her social media, and I loved her. She was a constant source of encouragement. She was the friend that would, like, send you a book out of the blue, or I was struck by her generosity and just her love. Her blog back in the day was Brenda and the Boys, which I could relate to because I was the only girl with 2 brothers. So I just loved it. I just loved watching you parent. And then trying to think what else. We have a lot in common. And then
what are some of those commonalities when you say we have a lot in common?
We love people. We love people's stories and cheering them on. I think we both really try hard to look at people. And my goal, my nature, I wasn't always this way. I wasn't always a glass half full girl. I was like hey, there's a smudge on the glass. But I really have, one of the things I've tried over the last 10 years is to see people as God sees them, like to find something in everyone to love that's lovable. And I think Brenda is one of those people. She works so hard at speaking life to people, like calling things out in them, maybe that you don't see. She said today, and I think this is a great quote for social media. We were in the car and she said, I don't want to be an influencer. I want to be an encourager. And I was like, that's it, period. Like that's what y'all are doing, right? I mean, maybe you're going to be influencers. I don't know, but you are definitely encouragers. You guys are using your energy and your time and your resources to encourage other women, and encouraging other women to encourage other women. Like, how awesome is that, you know? So I feel like there's nothing negative in the world. And then, you know, Brenda is just like, you're not perfect. Has anyone told you that?
I'm not
perfect.
Not perfect.
But she is like, her business, her side business is the Real OC Diva. So she guided my husband and I through the worst organizing project ever. And like, probably we could have gotten divorced over it. It's touch and go still sometimes. So we're still working on the project years later. But I was struck by as she guided us through this, like going through our garage, going through a lifetime full of like his stuff, my stuff, our stuff. She really saw us. Like she helped us see, she saw us and she helped us see each other. And she guided us through without telling us you ought to, you need to, you should. It was, have you thought about what if you tried it this way? I think what he's trying to say is, and it was just really such a positive experience when we probably could have just torn each other apart. And so I was really, to see someone in their element, like to see someone that you know one way, I know her as a mom, as a sister, as a daughter, as a wife, and then to see her as an organizer, I was like, you're actually good at this. Like, you know, like I would have paid you for this.
Yeah. Like Brenda, you are a professional organizer as well as a encourager on social media, which is so cool. And Kristi, I can totally relate to the experience you just mentioned, because that is really hard when there is a portion in your life or in your house, which I think they're synonymous with each other, that needs to be organized, because usually it's one person knows how to in their mind and the other one is like probably wants to but is scared to because it's so overwhelming. And we had a similar thing where I didn't even want to bring it up because it could have like been divorce material there.
Yeah.
And a good friend came in, and it was her passion as well, and just guided us through the whole thing. And it really kind of took the emotion in a way out of it for both of us. So way to go, Brenda, because sometimes somebody just needs a little bit of a different perspective, but also somebody that knows like how to organize and really what's important and why, you know, talking somebody through those questions to help them know what it is they want to keep and let go.
Well, and to do it like in a situation like that, I'm sure there are other situations, but in our situation, like there was, you know, one of us felt a lot of shame, I think, for the things they were holding on to. And then one of us is prone to blame. So when you have those two, Brenda really took that out. And in taking that out, she allowed both of us to kind of, to express ourselves in a safe way, to be heard, but probably more importantly, to help us hear each other. Because we, you know, like when you've said the same things to each other for 20 years, and then someone comes in, it's like, I think what he's trying to say is, I think what she's really saying is, it's like, oh, you know, it takes that blame and shame out of it. But I could talk about you all day. So Brenda, a few years ago when we started a different podcast, some friends and I, Brenda was there. She was like a cheerleader. Like she was on our street team. She was like, we had an event. She came to the event. Like she was the best at spreading the word, cheering us on. And we kind of connected at that point, because at that point she'd been divorced for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And was trying to figure out direction in life. And, you know, that's something that I'm passionate about, is helping people step back and set goals and set realistic goals and say, okay, what do you want? What do you really want to do? So we've sort of had that aspect of our relationship the past few years. And so you called me in April and we were talking, we need to do like not a coaching call, but like a, hey, where am I going call. And she said, you should do another podcast. And I was like, let's do it. And then like the next week we had a podcast, and now that was April. This is the beginning. This is Labor Day weekend, y'all. We've recorded episode 30. 31 is scheduled for Wednesday. Episode 50 will run on my birthday right before Christmas.
Aww.
Talk about an accomplishment.
Brenda's like, you should do a podcast. I'm like, we should. And then we have a podcast.
Well, so here, I'll jump in, because so I always have ideas, but I don't execute the ideas. And that's why I love Kristi, is because
I'm a nerd.
Anytime I've said, hey, I really need to talk, here's one thing. She never judges. She's always like, okay, bring it. What do you have for me? She's so honest. And I need that, because you know, when I come to her, I'm like truly like, I don't know what to do. And she, because she knows me, which is nice, she lets me have, you know, she lays it down. But what I love is when you talk to her, she waits, she listens to it all. And then she's like, okay, what about this? And for me, it just gets all of my ducks in a row. I am an organized person, but my ducks tend to get out of line sometimes. And she always helps me line them up. And I'm very anxious, I have anxiety. She always takes that away from me and makes it doable. And what I love is that where I get overwhelmed and my anxiety jumps in is because I'm looking at the big picture and all of the things that I need to do, oh my gosh, before that can happen. And I get overwhelmed and I freak out. And so what she does is she listens, and then in her brain, she just listens, and then she's like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And so then she takes it and breaks it down and just gives me a little bit to chew at a time. And it's just amazing. And it just works. And then I just feel so much better. So I love that about her.
Does she talk to you in that really soothing voice that just is like, I love you and it's okay? And like, because that is amazing.
Sometimes, but really she's like, come on, this is what you have to do. Like, it's like, it's tough love, but not so tough, if that makes sense. Like,
More like pep talk love.
I feel like I'm holding Brenda's hand because Brenda, I have to tell you a secret.
what?
So like when you were talking just now and you're like, and she gets my ducks in a row. Do you know what I do when I listen to you?
No.
I just listen to you and I say back to you what you say to me and you're like, that's brilliant.
Maybe.
But you need to hear it from somebody else. That's all
I
I
guess.
do. I like, it's not magic. It's just, you know what to do, but you need someone to tell it back to you. I feel like I'm telling you like a secret. Like I've been doing it for years. You know, you have it all in you.
This,
Look at you.
like this too. She's a cheerleader and she encourages you and she's like, not you can do it. Like she already sees that I've done it. Like she just believes in me that much. And then that, so Trio, you guys, before what we got started was you wanted us to brag on ourselves, and she allows that. Like she gets me excited where I'm like, oh, I can do that.
I am that.
I am that good. But I love her too because I love her style at her house. It makes me happy. But Kristi is really funny. She is just she is hilarious, and that makes our friendship fun too. Mm-hmm. So I love how funny you are.
But that's all like your boys, your ex-husband. We all have that same sarcastic wit, and Brenda is the best, y'all, because so we have a 12-year-old son, and he, like when Brenda's around, she and our daughter have so much in common. She and I have so much. She has something in common with everybody. She's that person, and she's not in a sociopathic way, like that friend in high school that like dressed. I'm gonna go way back. Are you ready?
Okay.
But the one that dressed like a kicker on Thursday so she could look like those friends, and then was a little bit like emo on Friday to hang out with those friends, and then was all like jockey on Monday to hang out with those friends. Brenda's not like that. She doesn't change who she is to be like you. She just will find a commonality. And so when she's here, my husband's not here this weekend, but when you're here, like she really is a part of our family, and she's so good. Like our 12-year-old son, he'll say something and she listens. Like poor Brenda at lunch today, she listened to like a 40-minute dissertation on every time the boy has made creme brulee.
He's 12 years old and makes creme brulee, y'all. Like I was into that. I love creme brulee.
But she listens. She listens to people. You call things out. Like when she's here, like she has something to talk about with everybody in our family. It's not like my friend Brenda. It's like, oh, Brenda's coming. She's our Brenda. She's everybody's Brenda. So our kids are thrilled.
I do. I love connecting with people. Okay, if I had to say something about myself, I've been practicing this, Trio and Alicia. I like about myself, I think I'm funny.
I think you're funny.
But I like about myself, and I've always been a connector. Mm-hmm. I like connecting with people. I like would say, oh, we have that in common or that in common. Mm-hmm. Even if it's just a little thing like, oh, you like creme brulee? So do I, and it just takes off from there. I've always loved hearing people's story. And I don't know, it just is, that's just something I've always been. I'm a fan of things, of people. I'm a fangirl. I think that's what it is.
She's a fangirl. She's a big joiner. Like we're so alike and such opposites too, which I love because, yeah. It works. Like we're a good marriage. If we were going to be like a podcast marriage, we're a good marriage.
We definitely balance each other. What I've learned doing the podcast is there are things that we do that are different, and that's kind of funny. And like we always say, oh, we have big feelings about that, and we laugh. And she's like, really, you're like that? Or really, you do that? I'm like, yeah.
Okay, so you guys had a podcast. I don't remember what episode it was, but you were talking about the different ways of pronouncing certain words.
Yes.
I laughed so hard during that podcast. And the one that got me the most was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I was like, yes, that's exactly it, because I have some extended family members that say it like that, and I just can't. So just looking at the differences,
that is the deal breaker for me, and I'll say it here on You've Got This, Sis, is that when people say Wednesday, Thursday, okay, how do you say the word D-A-Y? Day, right? So you say day. So why would not D? Oh, it's a great D today. You're like, you can't. You don't say 2D. Like, it doesn't make sense.
You know what we did? We're all gonna say it now. So this is since we did
Wednesday,
that, Alicia. That like I think every episode we've recorded since then, we have the same conversation. Is that how you say that? How do you say that? Because now everything I'm like, so like, oh no, I'm saying it wrong.
How do I say it?
Sean cracked me up. So I love that you guys can recognize the differences that you have, but also see all the similarities and connections that you have. And I think that's one thing that makes your podcast so amazing, is that you both love finding those connections with each other, but also with every person that you have on your podcast. And it's an amazing gift, I think, because those connections and finding the things that you have in relation with other people, that's what really creates joy, is
yes.
those connections and relationships.
Joy is one of my favorites. I love Joy.
She does love joy. And like I've been listening to your, I guess this last podcast that you guys had about the accomplishments. Like it definitely is a celebration of it's funny to say it, but of our differences, because that makes me, that makes her, but I love those things about her, even if they drive me crazy.
I think that's true friendship, right? Like it's like when you have the person that you can talk to, the person you can be quiet with, the person that you have similarities and differences, but it's all, and I'm not like it's all good person, but it's all like it all feels right. Like that's your people. Mm-hmm. You find those people, hang on to them. Those people that you like you guys, like we haven't talked to y'all in a while, and sitting down with you, it's like, oh, like we're just picking up. But and it could be because I see y'all online, but I'm like, oh, hey again.
And I liked what you guys said after we finished recording the podcast with you guys. We were texting back and forth, and someone said something like, yeah, we're all different, but isn't it great because we're working towards the same thing? It's like we're fruit salad. And I was like, oh, yes. Ding, ding. Like, that's it. We're all different fruit, but together. I love your
fruit salad analogy. That is really good.
Yeah. I love that.
Have you used that anywhere else? Because I do think that's good.
That is good.
Mm-hmm. Trio, how old's your oldest?
He's 15.
That's okay. Yeah. I have older nieces and nephews, and one of them used to have a Wiggles guitar at our house, and the guitar played yummy fruit salad.
I remember that because I have nieces and nephews that now have kids, and they were Wiggles. Yes, I remember that.
Wiggles, Barney, Teletubbies.
Yes. Oh. And you know what? We're talking about how accomplishments look better in color, and I love too that you guys are sitting here talking about like really bragging on each other and talking about your similarities and your differences. But I had the thought that sometimes our accomplishments go undercover, and there's undercover accomplishments too. And I think that's really a significant thing, because it's where, you know, we are similar, we're different, but it's that little nugget of like gold or sparkle that just, it's like, oh, there's her, and she just always makes me feel comfortable, like being with you guys. I mean, that's one of your gifts, is that you guys, you not only connect with people, but like you said, Kristi, you've had this perspective in your life where you're trying to look at other people really through lenses of love, like no matter where they are in their life, how different they might be, that you really want to see them for who they are, and through love. And I think that is an undercover kind of accomplishment. And I love it. I think that's so cool.
Can I actually ask a question about that? When did you decide to do that? Was there something that happened, or a moment where you're like, I need to do this more? And what did you do to make that happen?
You know, I've thought about that actually, Alicia. I don't, we lost my dad to cancer 11 years ago in April. So he was diagnosed. We had Noble in March. We had a really great vacation in June, and we knew something was wrong. And then my dad was diagnosed in July. And so from July to April, we lived through a hurricane. Like, my husband had to go from here to Houston and check my dad out of the hospital and bring him here because the hurricane hit their part of town. So it was a hurricane. My brother moved to Taiwan, and then they moved back. And it was a year of like unimaginable things and busyness. And I remember my dad, one of the times he was at our house, like, he just would camp out on our couch. Even before he got sick, he always loved laying on our couch. And we had people, maybe it was Thanksgiving, we hosted everybody at our little house for Thanksgiving that year so he could see everybody one more time. Because, like, when you're walking through that, it's like, man, I hope he makes it to school. I hope he makes it through Labor Day. I hope he makes it through Halloween. I hope he makes Thanksgiving. I hope he makes it to Christmas. And like, so Thanksgiving was we didn't really think he would be here much longer after that. So anyway, I'm scurrying around and I'm sweeping. Every time someone comes in, I sweep up after him. And my dad was he changed a lot the last several years of his life. And he turned into someone who saw me and I could really talk to, from a man that I felt like growing up, I didn't really know him, even though we lived in the same house. And he said, Kristi Lynn, you keep cleaning. It's okay if your floor is dirty. Go enjoy the people who are here. That's what it's about. And I was, my dad didn't really lay down a lot of stuff, but that hit me. And it was like, so I guess it was Thanksgiving. And from that point on, I quit looking at those days as something to get through, to make it to the next one and the next one and the next one. I started looking at those days as days to live fully. And so with the child in kindergarten and a young baby who was a hot mess, trying to work at home, trying to support my parents 80 miles away with chemo and all the things, and my brother spread out, that it became about finding that joy every day, finding something to be grateful for every day. It was a time I didn't talk to God a whole lot, but it was a time that I learned how to live in my skin where I was at. And it's, and that's one of the things I did. I wrote about it quite a bit the next couple of years, but it's something, it took probably the worst thing that's ever happened to me for me to stop waiting to be happy, for me to stop living in that. I don't know if this is something y'all struggle with, but I used to get what we called the Sunday blues when it was time to go back to work, because it was like, like all day Sunday I'd be grumpy. And then it was like, when you get to the point where you can find something every day to be happy about, you don't have to live like that anymore. You just, every day is a good day. So I talk a lot, sorry, but Alicia, it took losing my dad, walking through some crazy stuff that year. My dad and my parents had a house fire. My dad's last cancer surgery in February, it was like February 2nd or 3rd, January 30th, our house burned. And we had can you even imagine? Like, I got a call from my mom and I thought she was going to say he was gone, and she was saying it's burning. And I was like, what is happening here? And so it was a crazy time, but it was still a time of great joy and great learning and we enjoyed that time with my dad up until he couldn't do it anymore. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. I think that's another similarity we have, because, the last 5 years have gone through some stuff too, with a divorce and my dad dying of cancer. And I think, so the quote that I said a while ago about, what if we're obsessed with the things we love about ourselves? So I became obsessed with the things that I already had, that I still had. And I started looking at things through having a grateful heart, because if I would have sat in my house and thought of, my husband left, I am a stay-at-home mom with a high school diploma. It's so easy, even talking, thinking of things to brag about yourself. It's easy to sit there and be in the dark and say all the things that are bad. And so when I started listing things that were good, I am still a mom. I still have my kids. I found a job. I still have a roof over my head. I think for me too, when I started just adjusting the thoughts, I mean, I'm happy, I'm content, I have everything I need or could want, you know, even if the bad stuff.
It's
I
joy.
love that.
The Margaret Feinberg book.
Yes, yes.
I like that in both of these stories, it's a process. It's not just a, oh yeah, I'm going to think positive today, or oh yes, I'm going to find all the good. It's not just a decision. It's a process. It's a process of becoming. And I think even though we each individually have our own processes that we're going through, they're impacted by other people. Like obviously the two of you and your stories and your friendship have impacted both of your journeys as you've gone through this. So I love hearing those.
Well, and when I was listening to you guys talk about, Kristi, in a way, it was a decision that kind of was shaped by the experiences that you had that year. That was pretty tough. I mean, when you think about the things that were going on with the hurricane, so environmentally within your family, and then just so emotionally, like all these different things. And then Brenda, like with you in relationship wise, you know, and mentally too, because that is trying to like get through mentally. And you did so well because you were able to reframe that for yourself of what I do have, and I have what I need, and I'm going to be grateful. But I like one thing that I can relate to as well is, I mean, I used to have the woe is me days a lot. And when I finally decided to go back to school and then was working as a nurse, like I have always had an appreciation for other people's stories. And that might have been a gift that my dad gave to me because he had served in the military, and some of our family vacations would stop to see some of his old military buddies, his old war buddies. And as a kid, I hated it because I felt like these are just a bunch of old men. I don't know what they're talking about. Like, can we please go? Like, let's do something fun. But I really do feel like as I've grown and kind of understood that everybody has a story, everybody's life is important.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but to see people's resiliency, because I've seen some bad stuff. Like I've seen a patient who was working one day and the auger took her arms. I mean, they're like, and these people are some of the happiest people I've ever seen in my life. And they've just experienced the worst things that I think as a normal person, I look at and I'm like, okay, how did you find that joy? And I think it's a decision in some ways. It's that choice of let me switch the lens of how I'm going to see this and see it in the best light I can. And while she didn't have her arms any longer, she was receiving therapy and found other ways of utilizing what she still had. And like the joy that patients had that really lost their normal life that they were used to. We talked about it as, well, we're going to find the new normal now. This is a new normal. And I think for me, it just took away all that woe is me kind of crap. As in, let's see people for who they are. Let's appreciate everyone, because, you know, we're all here and we all have amazing things to contribute to others. So I love that.
True. One of the things you're talking about, what it made me think about was, I think about the way that I was for so much of my life and the way that I was wired to be critical and just to constantly, and I think the difference is when, and I think maybe not all of us get to this point. Maybe some of us get to it early. Some of us come to it later, like I did. But when you realize, when you're looking down and your sphere is just like, you know, you're thinking about yourself and thinking about how things, you know, like you walk through life and it's a series of things that happen to you and people do things to you and cause things. But when you're looking down, you're constantly thinking of all the things that are wrong here. But when you look up and look out and you see other people, like when you realize it's not really about you, and I don't mean that in a martyr way, like, oh, it's not about me, I'm last. I mean, it's really not about me, right? Like, I know that I am a part of a much bigger story. My story is important to me, but this may not even, none of this is really about me. It's about the people around me. It's about God. It's about his purpose for me. It's about all of that. And when you realize that, like, it made me a better consultant. It made me definitely a better wife and a better mom. And it doesn't mean I don't have bad days. And it doesn't mean I don't get really, because I can get real crappy. I can get real ugly real fast. And it doesn't mean that all that goes away. It's not magic, right? But it's like you said, it's that choice. But I think that choice begins with looking at and stopping focusing so much on what's wrong and what you want and what you don't have and all of that. Like, you got to get out of your own head.
Yeah.
Brenda, I feel like you do that at school all the time. You are in this habit of you've taken the time to learn how to find the joy and to have that positive outlook, and you share that with everybody at the school. I know that there are groups of kids who still love seeing Miss Brenda, Miss Parks. I know you even showed up to a birthday party. A bunch of kids that just went into.
You weren't even the clown. You were just the happy. That's awesome.
They all they missed her because they didn't really get to say a goodbye at the end of the year. So they jump into middle school and they don't get to say goodbye to Miss Parks. So your ability to encourage and cheerlead and your habit of finding the good is influencing so many people. So many people. Your podcast, yes, but so, like, all those kids and the teachers at the school, it's so neat to see that.
Yeah, I just love the kids. And so I guess for me too, I started thinking the quote about be kind because everyone's going through something. And when I first started working at the school, some of those kids are really living hard lives. Like, they're dealing with grown-up things or themes and have seen things that I wasn't expecting that. I guess I was living with, sheltered, or I was naive about some of the things. And so when I started the job there, it was why I got the job is because I needed a job. So I was going through my own things, and then got there, and I'm hearing these stories of them going through those things. So I was like, you know what, together we're going to be nice to each other and we're going to encourage each other. And then I just started having lunch with them and talking to them and, doing the thing I do, like, oh, you like One Direction. I like One Direction. Like,
I wear Converse too. I wet the bed too. I could imagine you having that conversation.
No, seriously.
With a second grader.
So back to the connecting with them, like, and I say this on our podcast in real life, is even if they're, in kinder or in 5th grade, we're all human people going through things. They have bad days. They have good days. They have hard days. They have confidence issues. They compare themselves. Like, what I was going through, what they were going through were the same things. And so I really that's where that all started. And when I got invited to that birthday party, I was like, oh, are you sure? Okay. And it felt good to see them and pick up where we left off. And I truly do love them. And another thing about the kids is, I see them as adults. I can tell the people they're going to be because of who they are already, if that makes sense. And so that makes me happy too, because I try to encourage them to, to say those things like, you know what, I think you're a good writer, or you know what, you are such a great big brother, or you're the oldest, I'm the oldest, and I understand that being the oldest, you probably have a lot of responsibility with 4 younger siblings. So those little things that I notice, that's what I talk to them about, and I think that's what hooks them, and that bonds us. It does, and I love it. I love it.
The other thing too, as you were talking, is just what Kristi said a minute ago. And I love it. I love this, just the way you put it, as if I continue to look down in my own life as to what was going on, I would never have seen what was going on around me. But the fact that you looked up and you looked out, Brenda, you can see the kids. And yes, you were going through hard things at the time you got the job, but you decided to look up and look out and notice the similarities. And in doing so, love them exactly for who they are and who they're going to grow into becoming. And that's the coolest thing ever.
Well, thanks.
I love that, because you're speaking like, I don't think as adults, unless you have walked this as a child, I don't think we understand that there are kids that literally never hear nice things. You know, as a young teacher, I'm shocked at kids' language. I don't want you to have to mark explicit on this podcast, so I won't say any of it. But I, like, second graders would say, like, you know, just don't be such a beep, or I beeped that up, and I was like, I was shocked, and I had to learn that is just how they speak at home. They don't know they're saying bad words. They're just saying words. And I was like, oh, I see. Or like the kid, you know, like when you have a kid that just pops another kid when they reach for something or whatever, like he doesn't know what he's doing is not appropriate. It's just how he lives. Like some kids live hard because their biggest priority is keeping a roof over their head.
Yeah.
You know, or whatever, or mom and dad fight. Like they're, you know, you guys live in an affluent area.
Yeah.
But those kids still, they may live in nice houses, but that doesn't mean they have food. That doesn't mean they always have electricity, or that they have two parents who love each other and love them.
Right. Well, and I was going to one of the middle schools a few years ago with some of the nursing students, and I thought it was really interesting because we're talking about kids coming from hard homes, but I was just observing interactions between some of the teachers, specifically like a PE teacher and some of the students. And it was knockdown mean. And it just hurt my heart because you could tell that these children in this particular school were not from affluent areas and most likely had not even been told that they were loved that day. They probably got themselves out of the house on their own, were fed whatever they could find in the house and came to the school, and then were continued to being belittled. And it just hurt my heart because I'm like, they're probably like, if they can't come to school and feel safe, and I'm not saying all teachers are that way. Grateful, Brenda, that you are the light in the school. And I'm sure that there's other lights too, but be the light, like wherever you are, because you honestly don't know what somebody is going through. But it just hurt my heart because I'm like, of all people, we should be adults and be able to see that kids need a smile, need love, you know, and we all do. But yes.
I think a lot of it too, and I don't know if it's the age that I am now and I feel like free to just finally be like, relax a little and just truly be myself, is I really try to just tell them, you know, the things about themselves that I see that I'm like, that's really cool that you do that or that, you know, and I just want them, and women, like I just want anyone and everyone to, you know, look at themselves and be okay how they are, or like your thing about finding things to brag on themselves, like, hey, I'm funny, or hey, you know, like I try to recognize those things in them and the people I work with too, and just say, that is really cool that you do that. And sometimes, you know, I think we don't think that we're cool, or we don't think that we're, you know, funny, or the things that other people see in us. And so if you don't say it to someone, they probably know it, but they wouldn't say, yeah, you're right, I am funny, I am cool.
I think it's hard for us to say that. If someone gives us a compliment, our first gut reaction is, oh no. No, not really, but you're sweet. Thanks.
It's right, Alicia.
We do that. And then there's also, as women, oh, you look cute. Oh, this it was just $20 on Amazon.
Yeah.
$2.50 at the Walmart. $2 at the Walmart. Like that. Like we say things like that. And then I'm like, why can't you just say thank you and move on? Why do you have to like give them a rundown of what you didn't spend? Like, and you do, I said that to yesterday. Somebody said something nice, and I was like, oh, you're sweet. And really what you're saying is bless your heart. You just don't even know. Like, okay. Like, dummy.
That's true. And you know what? I just recognized something that I want to get better at. I want to get better at accepting compliments. I think that would be an accomplishment.
Yes, I think it would be.
Okay. So have you heard John Acuff does, I'm gonna hand you something now, Alicia.
I love him.
Good.
He does September, January challenge. Today is September 5th. So maybe every day in September, your one little thing, instead of running a bajillion miles, which you rocked, by the way.
Yeah, you did.
August.
Go, girl.
Maybe you.
Thank you.
Each day in September is accepting a compliment. So I'm going to start, Alicia. I was so impressed the way that you guys, you individually, but also you as a family, persevered through the heat, through the busy, through the crazy, and you met your goal of running all those miles. It was 150, but you guys ran way more?
We ran 163 total.
Like, I think everyone after like 1 mile, I'm like, yes.
I don't think I've ever run 163 miles in the 47 years of my life combined. Like, you know, like all the gyms or PEs. Like, no. That's amazing.
I'm going to say thank you to that. And you can't see, but I get teary-eyed a little easily. And so right now, just having you recognize that, I'm like, oh, thanks. Like, it matters when you speak those truths to people and when you recognize them for that. And I don't know, I'm gonna brag on myself just a little bit here.
Go, girl.
42 of those miles were mine.
Woo! I asked Ryan.
Alicia, that's huge.
It is.
Have you ever run 42 miles in a month?
Like, that's like a marathon. I don't do
No.
marathons.
26 is a marathon. That's a marathon and a half. That
A
is
marathon
huge.
and a half.
So thank you, Kristi. I appreciate that.
Hey.
And Brenda for
I
doing
like this
the
challenge.
Yeah, I did math. Hey.
You mathed her.
I mathed. Well, I have to say too, is like when you you set a goal and you did it every day and you accomplished that, like that inspired me to be like, hey, you know, like I'm going to set a goal and do something. It's not going to be running, but you know, I'm just like, thanks, Alicia. Thanks, Trio. Like I'm going to do something.
Well, and you know what got me to do that goal was me watching a person who I attend church with, who is probably in his 50s. He did an Ironman. And I was like, are you kidding? I can run 10 miles a week. So it's a positive feedback cycle. When you watch other people accomplishing things, it's totally inspirational. And then you inspire other people. It spreads. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Yes. And so I saw one of your only son that's left at school. I went and had lunch with fourth grade this week. Yeah. And I was like, dude, your whole family ran so many miles. Yay. And I was like, how many did you run? How many did your mom run? Because I know she ran more than y'all. He didn't know the numbers, but he was like, oh, cool. Yeah, thanks. And then so some of the kids at school were like, your family ran 150 miles? It was really cool. So we're celebrating at Summerwood Elementary.
Good. It's September celebration month anyway. So this is really good. And I'm so glad to have you guys on right now for this particular month too, because both of you individually mentioned each other as being the best cheerleader. And that's what I feel like. I feel like this hangout session that we're having, like it's a cheerlead session. Mm-hmm. And I love that about you guys. And I think all four of us in our podcast, we want to be those cheerleaders, those encouragers. Yes. And it's really neat to connect with you guys because you're doing the same thing. And it's powerful.
I do want to pass this along a little bit too. Trio, we have been talking, the three of us I think have talked a little bit more about, but Trio, I want to say something about you. One of my favorite things ever, there's a Billie Dean song from that movie 8 Seconds. Remember that, about Lane Frost? And one of the lines in the song is, if I can, you can too. And I think about that. That's one of my very favorite things. Like I'm like, if I had to like die tomorrow and put something on my grave, like that's what I want people to know. If I can do it, you can do it. It's not bragging to say that you ran 43 miles. It's saying I didn't think I could, and I did. If I can do it, you can do it. And Trio, I think we didn't really dive deep into, you kind of hit rock bottom, depression wise and feeling wise and stuff, and then came back from that. And I think for me, that was part of what makes you such a good friend and podcaster and mother and coach, is that you're not sitting up on a pedestal and saying, oh, people, look what I did. You're saying, look, I've been there and I know how to get out of there. Let me help you. And I love that about you. I love that that's what you're doing with your life.
Thank you. Thank you.
See how she did that, Alicia? She just said thank you. That was good.
I've been practicing for a long time because I recognized that about myself a long time ago. And it's not a place I want to be. I wanted to be somebody that could joyfully say thank you and mean it, and then also believe it, because that was the discrepancy for me, is people would say something and I'm like, well, that's nice, they're saying it, but I don't believe it. So the belief part for me, you know, if somebody's like, oh, you're so gorgeous, I'm like, yeah, I am. Like, thank you. That's really nice of you to say that, because there's days I'm painting and I'm not put together, and that's okay too. Like, I like that. And my mom was a great example of that. Like, she's a gorgeous woman, but we worked hard on the farm, and we got muddy and we got dirty and we got sweaty, and then we could go clean up and go out to dinner and look put together. And I'm just grateful for her that, you know, that they were that example to me of, it's okay to be a work person and then be put together and shower.
I love that. That I've seen you guys show more your realness. Like, it's encouraging for me and makes me feel better when, you know, I love like all your pictures where you're dressed up and the balloons in the car, but I love the pictures too where you're like, you just ran all those miles and you're glistening, and, or, you know, Trio, you've posted some where, you know, you're gardening, or, you know, you have no makeup, and I'm like, oh, like, you're just a beautiful person, makeup, no makeup. And I think that you're showing all of the different sides and faces of yourselves. And so that is great, because then other women feel like, you know what, I don't feel like wearing makeup today, and that's okay. And I can go out in public, or I can post a picture, and that's encouraging. And I appreciate that too.
You're welcome. And I think we all need to be more comfortable, because not only do we aim, I think, and there was, growing up in the South, there was the mantra of Southern girls don't leave the house without being put together, like makeup, perfect. And so I really had to overcome that as well. But I feel like as women, we wear so many different hats. Why don't we just embrace whatever hat we're wearing whenever we wear it, like, and be proud of being able to wear all the hats and wear whatever embraces it, you know?
I want a hat line that says, I just weeded the garden. I just ran 10 miles. I just rolled out of bed.
They like have like Velcro where like you change the different things.
There's your $1 million.
There you go.
You got this, sis. No matter what patches.
Like hashtag gardener, hashtag with all our accomplishments.
Got out of bed.
So
got out of bed.
Fed the kids 3 meals today.
Yeah.
I think
well, imagine if you put all of them on just to recognize all of them at the same time.
Oh my.
Scott,
we need these hats, y'all.
We need this.
I can make it happen.
Let's do it.
Like, don't dare me, because I'll do it. I'm just that dumb.
You guys all.
Yes, and me and Elise were like, wait, what?
Are a lot alike, and so we know not to dare.
Exactly.
Oh no!
And that's what makes these.
I love you,
Kristi. So good.
I love you too, Brenda. So everybody needs to go check out Normal Bias Podcast, because these amazing women, Kristi and Brenda, are just a ball of fun and real. And that's why we wanted to have you guys here, is because we had so much fun with you, but also you have a lot to offer other people, and your light shines so bright, and we're so grateful. So undercover accomplishments look better in color, power accomplishments. I just think we need to honor them all together. And I think we have. We've done a good job today.
It's normalbiaspodcast.com,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
right? Or the podcast, Normal Bias Podcast, either on podcasts or on YouTube. You can look them up either way right there. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
Thanks for listening. We'd love to hear your thoughts or suggestions for future episodes. Visit us on Facebook or Instagram, and be sure to share some of your own personal wins so we can celebrate along with you.
And don't forget to click on the 3 dots below to share this episode with a friend who's on your heart today. Go win your day, sis. We love you.